Hey everyone, I'm back online today to bring up one of my favorite topics again, which is Smite. But more importantly, we're going to be looking at the gods of Smite. For this video, we'll be looking specifically at the Norse pantheon, which has 11 gods and 4 different creatures. We'll be mostly focusing on the 11 gods today, but I will talk a little bit about the 4
The first
others.
god we'll be looking at today is Odin, who is all-father of the Norse pantheon, being a god over war, poetry, runes, magic, and the dead. In Smite, Odin is a warrior who slams his way through his enemies. Odin's strengths are his engagement. He is good at starting a fight with high burst leaps and Shield of Crows, and after leaping onto gods, he can throw up his cage, keeping people in his cage with 100% anti-heal. His greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. His leap is his only form of escape. If he uses his kit to engage, he will have a hard time getting away. The second god we'll be looking at is the son of Odin, who is Thor, the god of thunder, sky, and agriculture. He is also the defender of Asgard and of Midgard being the realm of humans. Thor in Smite brings a lightning-fast combo that before you can react will remove you from the game. Thor is a strong burst character with high mobility, but as it is with most assassins, they have a big weakness to gods with high crowd control, where as soon as Thor lands, he is stunned or mesmerized and cannot complete his combo, and since he is an assassin, he is also very squishy, making that stun or mesmerize that much more threatening. The third god, and the one that takes third place for my least likable characters, is Loki, god of chaos. A lot of people see Loki as a trickster god, but that is only a portion of what he is. He is also the god of chaos and of fire. He is a god who does as he pleases, from being the mother as well as father to many different creatures such as Jormungand, the world snake, Fenrir, the bringer of Ragnarok, Sleipnir, who is Odin's horse, Hel, the goddess of the underworld, and many other creatures. Loki in Smite is an assassin who has a strong burst, giving him the nickname One-Shot Loki. Due to this fact, if you build him a certain way, he can one-hit mages, hunters, and other assassins. Loki is the thorn in everyone's... Heimdall, what are you doing here? Hey, you leave Loki alone. It's not Ragnarok yet. Loki isn't leading the army of giants yet. Go back to the Bifrost, it's not your turn yet. Anyways, what was I talking about? Alright, before we get interrupted, I was talking about how Loki is a thorn in everyone's side. His strengths are his abilities to remove one specific player from the game by doing the high burst ability to do the damage, removing one of the damages from the team fights. His weakness is team fights because of the single target specialty in group fights. It leaves Loki more vulnerable to getting stunned or rooted. The fourth god is Freya, queen of the Valkyries. Freya is the leader of the Valkyries and the goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and gold. She is also well versed in magic. It is said that when Freya cries, she cries tears of gold. In Smite, Freya is a mage that flies her way onto the battlefield. Freya's strengths come from a combination of her abilities and her auto attacks, being that her abilities help strengthen her auto attacks and lifesteal hugely benefits her. Some of Freya's weaknesses is that she consumes mana extremely fast due to the cost of her abilities, and that if she is low as mana, it means that Freya will need to get up close. Scotty is the goddess of winter and skiing. She was originally a giantess that was turned into a god after an incident between the gods and Scotty's father, Thiazi. In Smite, Scotty is a hunter. As said in the previous video, she is my favorite goddess. Her strengths are that she is a good single target damage character while also being able to stay on one person. Because even though Scotty is one person, she fights as if two with Calder the Wolf on her side. She's a strong character when played right. One of the biggest mistakes people do is getting critical chance items on her because she does so much better with power and penetration. Due to her companion Calder, who does not crit but does scale off Scotty's power and attack speed, so Calder himself is a guaranteed crit chance, especially when you land the spear that allows Calder to do double damage, or as long as a frost mark is on someone. Scotty's weakness in large is her mobility. If Calder is taken out of it, it leaves Scotty very vulnerable, with her only escape being the ice that enemies slip and slide across and giving her movement speed buff. But other than the movement speed boost, she has no stuns, roots, or mesmerized, and if ganked by 2 or more people, she will have a hard time escaping. Next on the list is Ul, god of the hunt, archery, and is known as the Glorious One, and was prayed to for combat. When Odin was not around during his banishment, Ul was the one to watch Asgard in his place. In Smite, Ul is a hunter, who like Hel, switches stances, but between a bow and 2 axes. Ul is really good at almost anything when played well. He can do attack speed, he can do power and pan, he can even do critical strike builds, but his strength comes from being able to land his abilities. Ul's weakness is that he's a very hard character to play, but the separation from beginner to expert is being able to land every single one of his abilities and being in the right stance for the situation. The next god on the list is Tyr, the standard of the law. Tyr is the god that holds the law in Asgard and is one of the few bravest gods, sacrificing his right hand to chain Fenrir the wolf down so to delay Ragnarok. Tyr is the unmoving will of the law, where if a god breaks the law, even Odin himself, Tyr will uphold it. Tyr in Smite is just as unwavering as his character is in mythology. He is a warrior and has 2 stances that he can switch from, being assault and guard stance. His strength, like Odin, relies on his engage. He wants to get in behind his opponents to shove them into allies, separating the one person from the rest of their team, making an easy kill for your team. His weakness comes from his setup. He becomes predictable when he starts trying to move behind you and can be avoided with careful movements, and his animations for his moves are quite obvious. Now let's brighten things up with Sol, goddess of the sun. She carries the sun on a chariot led by 2 fiery steeds known as the Early Riser and Swift, who are trying to outrun Skulf, the wolf who is forever chasing the chariot. In Smite, Sol is a mage who uses her fiery personality to take foes with fire. This is another mage that benefits from her auto attacks, where her passive increases the damage her autos do as well as attack speed. Probably her strongest ability is the one that doesn't even do damage, her Disapparate. When Sol uses this ability, she gets increased movement speed and is immune to slows. After 3 seconds, she loses the movement speed, but then becomes immune to damage as well as immune to crowd control effects. This is one of the best escapes in the game. Her weakness lies in that she is very squishy and high burst character, so if people can get on her before she disapparates, it will cause her life. Now time to cool down with Ymir, father of the frost giants. Ymir was created when the fires of Muspelheim and the ice from Niflheim clashed together, falling into the abyss known as Ginnungagap. From Ymir came the first fire giants who were made from the sweat of Ymir. Odin later slayed Ymir, and from Ymir's death came the cosmos. They used his body parts to create all that is. Even though Ymir is not a god, he has started the worlds, and that is why he is part of this video. Ymir in Smite uses his icy presence to freeze those who would dare to fight him. His strengths are wide from his frost breath stun and his slamming on the ground to produce ice spikes. Ymir has a lot of crowd control abilities and has abilities that can do high amounts of damage. Ymir's weakness comes from his range. His frost breath is in a short cone in front of him. This is an issue because this is where Ymir does his strongest, because his abilities do have a delay and the frost breath makes using his abilities that much easier. Now time to go a little grim with Hel, the goddess of the underworld. Hel is a giantess born from the relation of Loki and Angrboda. Hel judges everyone equally if they should be punished or not, but Helheim or Niflheim in itself is not a land of punishment. While outside her realm, Hel is not as strong, but inside her realm, Helheim, there is no god that can match her, not even Odin. It would be easier to destroy Helheim than it would to destroy Helith herself. In Smite, Hel balances the battle with benevolent side that heals and a punitive side that smashes her foes with dark powers. As in the previous video, Hel is my favorite support character. A lot of people build her damage and she is very squishy, but when she uses abilities, it can devastate anyone around her. However, I have a different playstyle, making Hel a hybrid of damage and tank. I get items that specifically benefit her from the abilities that make her tankier, while also being able to dish out continuous damage. Assassins will go after this Hel, thinking that they're like regulars, which are glass cannons, being squishy and easy to kill, but to be surprised when they try and do their high burst damage, only to find out that half the damage didn't even go. Problems with this build though is that Hel drains through mana insanely fast due to her having 6 abilities to use, and early in the game she is more suited to healing allies and doing the occasional poke. Anti-heal does nerf this build a little, but not as much as if I was just building glass cannon, where her heal is most of her survivability. Next, we'll get a bird's-eye view with Heimdall the Vigilant. Protector of the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost, Heimdall needs less sleep than a bird. He can see 100 leagues ahead. Heimdall could also hear the grass growing in the meadows. He is one who would blare the horn Jarlahorn, which could be heard through heaven and earth in the lower worlds, to signal when the giants attack Asgard, signaling the coming of Ragnarok. His ultimate enemy is Loki, and they will fight each other at Ragnarok. In Smite, Heimdall is a hunter who will have his eyes on the battlefield. Heimdall is a very strong hunter with very few weaknesses. He was Smite's idea for a warrior with ranged attacks gone wrong, giving similar tankiness to a warrior while still having the damage of a hunter. His auto attacks, even though slow, do massive damage. He has 2 forms of escape from his crystal that he can go from one to the other, and his ult, which is a dash that makes him CC immune. His weakness is that even though he is similar to a warrior in protections for base, but on the lower side of protections, so if Heimdall does get overconfident, it can cause his demise. He also has troubles against characters that can prevent his auto attacks, like Bologna, who can disarm auto attacks for a short period of time, or Scotty, who can use her dog to soak up 5 of Heimdall's attacks before he can attack Scotty. There are a couple creatures in the game that are not gods but do have a huge part in the lore of Norse mythology, being Fenrir, the bringer of Ragnarok, Jormungand, the world serpent, Ratatoskr, the messenger squirrel of gods, and Fafnir, the dwarven king whose greed turned him into a dragon. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please high-five that like button, and I hope to see you all in the next video. This is Logan, logging off.